Chapter 2: How Your Habits Shape Your Identity, and Vice Versa. Um, this is the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and this is a continuation of where we left off after Chapter 1. So, this discusses the levels at which change can occur. So, what is level 1? Changing your outcomes. What does that mean? You set your goals and you try to follow them. So you could have a goal of losing weight or winning a championship. So you're trying to change yourself by changing your results, basically. Level 2, changing your process. So this enhances on level 1 by implementing your goals as part of your daily habits or systems. So you implement a new routine at the gym, which will in turn help you lose weight. So now you've broadened your perspective on losing weight by creating a new routine at the gym. You declutter your desk for a better workflow. Uh, Now, this isn't directly related to the example I gave in the first level about winning a championship, but if you want to get uh, more college work done ahead of time, for example, what could help is decluttering your desk so you have a better workflow and a cleaner workspace, which would lead to, a higher level of thinking, a more creative level of thinking. So that's level 2. Now at level 3, which is the deepest level and possibly the hardest um, level, but the impact of it can be lifelong, is changing your identity. What does this mean? This means that you're completely changing your beliefs of the world, of your self-image, and what judgments you hold about yourself and others. So uh, in level 1, you have the goal of losing weight. So in level 1, you assume you are an unfit person. That's why you have the goal of losing weight. In level 3, you identify as a healthy person. And when you identify as a healthy person, you're more likely to make healthier life choices because that identity is so deeply rooted with who you are. So making the easy choices or making the hard choices becomes easier when you change your identity. And instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, you're basically shifting your focus on who you want to be. Um, you become an individual who achieves your desires daily, basically. So whatever your goal is, you're achieving that daily as a part of your identity. And I have a quote down here um, which discusses, which I'm just going to read it. Many people begin the process of changing their habits by focusing on what they want to achieve. This leads us to outcome-based habits. The alternative is to build identity-based habits. With this approach, we start by focusing on who we wish to become. And then here, James Clear has provided basically um, the layers um, based off of what, like an onion, the outer layer and the deepest layer. So the outcomes is the first layer, processes is the second layer, and then identity is the deepest, the core, at which major changes can happen. So here again, it's the same circle, but this kind of shows what outcome-based habits lead to. So with outcome-based habits, you set a goal, and then with that goal, you set a system, and then with that system, it eventually changes your identity. With identity-based habits, you start from your identity. Instead of looking at yourself as, let's say, an unfit person, you look at yourself as a healthy person. And now this healthy person will make healthy choices by default. So you get a brand new system, and then from that brand new system, you get a brand new set of goals. The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. It's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this. It's something very different to say, I'm the type of person who is this. And in the book, he gives an example of how the goal is not to read a book, the goal is to become a reader. And down here, I've written some of my own. The goal is not to go to the gym, the goal is to become an athlete. The goal is not to make $500,000 per year or whatever figure you want to put. Um, but the goal is to be financially free. And the biggest barrier to positive change is your own conflict with your identity. You're so deeply rooted with who you are or who you believe to be, you're refusing to change your bad habits because you think this is who I am. And some examples of this is I'm bad at remembering names. Um, and when you already have told yourself that you're bad at something, why would you change it? You've accepted you're bad at it. So these type of thoughts will really stop you from uh, becoming a better person or changing your identity, which is really the end goal, right? You want to change your identity to somebody who can do things that your current identity can't do. You want to change your identity, for example, to be a person who can exercise daily. Currently, you don't exercise daily, but that's your goal. So, in order to do so, you have to become the type of person who is more willing to exercise daily. And that's an identity change. Um, so, moving on, your habits are the evidence of your identity. Changing your habits means changing your identity. The process of building your habits is the process of becoming yourself. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. So you could, this is a very good way of thinking of it. Your habits are basically the unfolding of yourself. The more you learn and understand what your habits are, not necessarily changing your habits, but understanding or starting from understanding what your habits are is basically the beginning of you starting to understand who you are as a person. Because what you do on a daily basis is really what you are um, uh, as a person. Because whatever we repeat or whatever we think in our head the most is who we are as a person, essentially. So moving forward, changing your mindset about the things you do, excuse me, uh, is basically the the best way of achieving your goals. So, for example, each time you work out, you're an athlete. Don't think of a 1 hour in the gym as okay. I've done 1 hour in the gym. Every time you work out, you're like, okay, I have shown uh, uh, the personality of an athletic person. By working out for 1 hour today, I am an athlete. And some more examples of this is each time you help your coworker, you're a leader. Even if it's a small thing, you've shown a step towards leadership by helping somebody out who was in need of help. So you're somebody who can be looked up to. And more often you do this, the more you'll be looked up to as a leader. Some more examples, each time you put money into savings, you're financially free. Or alternatively, each time you invest, you're financially free. Because both of these things, in my opinion, uh, lead to the same thing. You could think of putting money into savings as investment, or you could think of putting money into uh, stocks that you believe in as an investment. I'm not going to preach about how you should put your money in stocks, but if there's something you strongly believe in and you put money into it, that's an investment. If you strongly believe in yourself and you put money on yourself by getting a gym membership or joining uh, some martial arts class or going to college, you're investing in yourself. Each time you make a YouTube video, you're a YouTuber. So here are a few examples of how you could change your mindset by doing little things every day. Now, these are things that happen every day, but you become so, how do you say it? You do them unconsciously sometimes. You look at the time, you're like, okay, 5 o'clock, time to hit the gym. You come back from the gym, then you do the next thing. Uh, what James Clear, I personally think, is trying to say is whenever you do a certain task, associated with a higher image of it. Uh, when you're studying for uh, an exam, you're a researcher. When you're working on a computer or you have a programming class and you're writing a program, you're an engineer. These small little tasks, if you keep doing them continuously, will eventually lead to that identity. Like if you work out every day, or let's say you work out for 1 hour today, you're an athlete. But if you work out every day, you will actually become an athlete. So that thinking is not entirely wrong. So this is another quote from the book, which I really liked. Um, Thinking this way changes your mindset from just doing something to actually being someone. So that whole talk about identity is very important. And another quote from the book is there will be times when you choose to do a bad or unproductive habit, but the beauty of it is this. Think of it like an election. An election needs majority, not unanimous votes to win. As long as most of the votes are for the good habits, then you're winning majority of the time. So this means that when you have bad days, when you can't go through with the habits that you set up, there's no point in beating yourself up because that will ruin your self-image in your head. Um, Basically, let's say if I have the goal of meditating every day, but I miss 1 day and I just sit there beating myself up, is like, God, I'm so inconsistent, I'm so this, I'm so that. It just puts negative thoughts in my head. And what do those negative thoughts do? They reaffirm the fact in my identity that I'm an inconsistent person. And when I I tell myself that, then I'm less likely to do that habit the next day. Uh, so thinking of this like an election where you're voting for the productive habits most of the time, but there are some days where you end up being unproductive, um, you will soon realize that those unproductive days are just little stones in a bucket of stones. They're they don't define the entire bucket. They're just part of it. So if majority of your votes are for the good habits, you will reach whatever goal you're trying to reach, or you will keep whatever identity you wish to keep in your head. Um, this thing is something that I tell myself all the time. So I read this book 2 years ago, and after reading it, I unconsciously just started saying this. If nothing changes, nothing will change. And I thought I came up with this. I felt so smart. But then when I reread this book now, I realized I picked it up from this book. So that just goes to show that even if you feel like you're not learning something from doing some reading or learning about something, then or not learning, but researching something, there is the unconscious mind that is picking up some of this stuff and embedding it as part of our identity automatically. So, what is this quote? If nothing changes, nothing will change. It's just you could read and learn as much as you want, but if you never act on it, then nothing will change. So the whole point of all of this is that you can read or watch this video, but if you never uh, take action on the wisdom that's provided by other people, then it's just plain wisdom that it's not going to help you because you chose not to act on it. So even with the world of knowledge in your head, it means nothing if you don't do anything with it. So how to change your identity? James Clear provides a two-step process of doing this. So step number one, decide the type of person you want to become. And then step number two, prove it to yourself with small wins or small victories every day. And some tips he gave is if you don't know the type of person you want to become, but have an idea of the result you want to achieve, uh, then you can work backwards. So an example of this is I want to get really good at boxing. Okay, so to get really good at boxing, I have to be an athlete. And what is an athlete? An athlete is somebody who's consistent and he's fearless. So he's not afraid of loss or failures or defeat. So for consistency, you could use a daily planner. And for being fearless, it could mean researching warriors or other athletes of the past that uh, are extremely successful at what they do or what they did. Or for boxing specifically, you could just try sparring or live training with a partner. That could be your friend or it could be at the gym. Um, and I've actually did the a little section for this exercise, which I kind of go into it. So here's a two-step process again. Decide the type of person you want to be and prove it to yourself with small wins. So we'll look at step number one first. And here's what I've written. So I want to be an athlete who's an expert in Muay Thai and boxing. For an athlete to be an expert in these sports, he must train 3 to 4 times a week, which includes sparring sessions, and he must learn the art of war and the best ways of recovery. So you can kind of break it down into what kind of identity this person will have. So the identity is somebody who is consistent and fearless, as mentioned before. But on top of this, you have to be strategic and mindful of your body. Strategic because these sports like boxing or Muay Thai, it's like a game of chess. One person does this, how do you return? Like what are you gonna do? If somebody throws a jab at you, well, there's so many different things you could do. You could block it, you could dodge it, you could duck it, and then throw your own punch. So that's where the strategy comes in. Being mindful of your body means that you could train 3 to 4 times a week, but how are you gonna split it up, or how are you gonna manage it so you give yourself enough time to recover, and you're still motivated enough to do the same thing the next week. So these are the type of things that you want to make part of your identity because these attributes will lead you to be eventually an expert in Muay Thai or boxing. And then when it comes to proving this to yourself, you could do a few things. So for consistency, for example, I use this thing called a panda planner. Um, and I could try pulling up an image of it. So panda planner. Let's see if I can. So I use a Panda planner which has a few pages for specific things. So there's a page for like daily tasks that you want to do. There's also a page for this is really hard to show, but there's a page for monthly sections, and then there's also a page for weekly sections, and then at the end there's a little notes page that on which you could just drop down your thoughts. So I highly recommend the Panda Planner. It's not exactly this one, but if you search on Amazon, there will be a lot of options from which you can choose from. So for consistency, for example, for what I'm trying to do, I could use the Panda Planner to jot down whatever tasks I have for the day, for the week, or for the month. Now, fearless, you can study how famous boxers and Muay Thai players got their start. So, um, I started by studying Muhammad Ali. There was a PBS documentary that I was watching on him, which basically showed how he started in boxing and what he did, not only in the ring, but also as a revolutionary and what he did for African Americans and also just other people in the world. Um, Being strategic, you can study books like The Art of War by Sun Tzu and other famous books uh, that basically uh, are from turbulent times, uh, that there was wars happening, and you could see how military generals acted, or their autobiographies or somebody that wrote about them. So you could do that for uh, getting uh, better with strategy. Excuse me. And as far as it goes for being mindful of your body, you could start by meditating daily for 5 or 6 minutes and understanding how many rest days you need to take between your sessions. So this goal of mine is very specific, and you may have something different, but I hope this shows how you could lay out a plan of what you need to do to achieve your goal. Um, and here's something I wrote for myself. When having conflicting thoughts, ask yourself, what would a pro boxer do in this situation? What would a martial artist do in this situation? So let's say I wake up, I'm not feeling great, I don't feel like going to the gym. I could just ask myself, what would a boxer do if he felt like this? And then that can kind of help me get some clarity on what action I should take, what would be the the best option for me right now. So I could give an example like I'm really not feeling like I want to go to the gym. So what could a boxer do if he didn't want to go to a gym? He could go for a walk, for example, or he could force himself to go to the gym. It really just depends on the condition. And then down here, I started logging. I'm not going to go through everything, but I can basically show how I started. So June 29th, 23, I basically wrote down everything that I did to prove to myself that I identify as an athletic person who's trying to be a really good boxer or an expert boxer or a Muay Thai player. So I started my day by planning on a planner. I woke up at 5:45 a.m. I worked out at 6 a.m. I had a protein shake. I meditated. I watched part of a documentary on Muhammad Ali. And at the end, I put a bullet. You probably don't have to go this much into detail, but just to kind of give you an idea of how you could, plan everything out is just shown here. But anyways, the final bullet says, because of this, I am a consistent person. And from the documentary, I learned something about being fearless and strategic. By meditation, I am mindful of myself. So this touched on all points mentioned in the identity. This shows consistency, shows being fearless, it shows being strategic, and it shows being mindful of your body. Maybe it doesn't necessarily show being consistent, but if I keep doing it over time, it shows I'm a consistent person. So, and I have tried to do it over time. I missed a few days, but I'm trying to get back on track again. Uh, and that's the whole thing, right? Majority votes. So as long as majority of your votes are for the productive habits, then you're going to reach your goals. Um, I'm going to stop here. This was chapter two. We'll talk about chapter three soon. So if you watch this, thank you. If you enjoyed it, then I hope you enjoy the next one too. Take care. Bye.